And that's our budget upgrade.
Oh. For a second there, I thought we had no topic. I was like, oh,
Nope. AB took care of our new little logo presentation and music. He wrote all that
Great job,
himself.
fam.
It's fantastic. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mack Flash 5, the show where we like to get together and list our top 5 movies of a certain topic. I'm Matt, and with me is AB on that side, Scott below him, and below me is Double Mint Mike, my favorite ice cream. How is everybody?
Super. Good, pal. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Everybody got their list ready?
Doubly well.
Nice. Oh, yes.
Double. See, now, great segue. Our topic this week is our favorite double features. 2 movies that may or not have any kind of connection, but something you like to watch, one, and then right after it's finished, you got to start the next one. Could be a sequel, something with similar actors, something by the same director, or you have a favorite writer, you like all of their catalog. It could just be 2 movies that aren't connected, but have a special meaning for yourself. You saw a double feature with a date, and you'll always have that memory. I remember taping things off TV, movies like Die Hard and Batman. Not necessarily, not dissimilar, but because they were on the same VHS, they started one and then right after the other. Yeah. So in my mind, they always go together. But before we really get started, I want to tell you how the show works. After we decide on a topic, we each make our own top 5 lists. And we're going to go around and we're going to talk in depth about 3 of those movies. 3, 2, and then we're going to do 2 honorable mentions. And then finally, we'll have our number 1. For this episode, double features was my pick. So I'm going to start off. My number 3 are 2 movies I recently watched. In the last week or so, I've been going through the John Hughes catalog. And a lot of his movies have a lot of the same actors. He's directed them himself. A couple he's just written and produced and then passed on to another director. And these are 2 of those. My first double feature is Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful.
Cool.
Nice.
Both movies written and produced by John Hughes, but directed by Howard Deutsch.
Is Dempsey in Some Kind of Wonderful? Am I
No.
Okay.
Some Kind of Wonderful.
Andrew McCarthy.
Andrew McCarthy. That's who I'm thinking. Okay.
Andrew McCarthy is in Pretty in Pink. He's the guy Molly Ringwald is.
I feel like I was thinking of.
No, he doesn't play Jake. Andrew McCarthy.
That's Andrew McCarthy. Jake. Yeah.
No, that's not Jake.
That's
3 minutes in, we got a flag on the field.
No.
I just watched it.
I've seen it about a million times. It's not Jake. I'll tell you who Jake is.
Matt, tell us why you picked
keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Well, the stories are very similar. In Pretty in Pink, Molly Ringwald is attracted. She lives, she doesn't live in a rich neighborhood like a lot of her classmates do in her high school. She falls for, I'm guessing, it's Andrew McCarthy.
No, It is Michael Schoeffling.
What are you talking about? Pretty in Pink?
Pretty in Pink.
Andrew McCarthy plays Blaine.
Yeah, you're thinking 16 Candles.
Oh, yeah. I am. You're right. Sorry.
Oh, pull that flag back up.
he loses a timeout.
I think that means he loses one of his things, right? He doesn't get to talk about
talk about his number 1.
Oh, yeah.
So Molly Ringwald falls in love with Andrew McCarthy. And she's got her best friend, Ducky, played by
John Cryer.
Cryer, who is in love with her, but she's in love with Andrew McCarthy. And she feels that she might not be the kind of girl he would be into because she's not rich. This guy lives in a rich, Beverly Hills type, but in Illinois neighborhood, big house, popular friends. Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. Who did the voice of Ultron?
James Spader.
James Spader is also in the movie. He plays a real rich prick. Scott, you would love him.
Plays Spader.
That's every Spader role.
Yeah, I was like,
what did I go back and watch? And I want to watch a lot of 80s Spader. So I was just thinking of that last week. During the Karate Kid, I rewatched the Karate Kid, and I'm like, I want to go back to 80s douches, and Spader popped up immediately.
Yes. He wears shirts unbuttoned down to his belly button the whole movie. But Some Kind of Wonderful, it pretty much shares the same story. Eric Stoltz, another redheaded actor, falls in love with Leah Thompson, who lives in the rich neighborhood of this time it's in California. He has a best friend who is in love with him. He's got a girl best friend who's in love with him. And it's essentially the same story pretty much all the way through. They're both really, really funny and really sync up. I mean, their endings are different, which I think people may have might have been a write-in campaign, because a lot of people who saw Pretty in Pink thought Molly Ringwald should have ended up with Ducky at the end of that movie. And Some Kind of Wonderful kind of hits that ending home. It's like, well, maybe we screwed up. Let's do it again.
Because it came out after.
It came out after. Yeah, it's a year later.
Yeah. That's funny. Cool. Well, okay, so let's do that movie again. We won't call it a sequel. We'll just rewrite.
We'll switch the genders on all the characters, keep the story, but we'll change the ending.
I'm surprised it's in California. Like, aren't all of his in like Chicago, Illinois sort of area usually?
They are. This is one that's in California. Maybe setting it in Illinois would have made it too similar.
Yeah. Okay, we better put it somewhere else.
Yeah. California, I think, maybe has a much clearer class system out there. There's obviously the low end of town and the high end of town. And it's probably just cheaper to shoot in California. I mean, for them, if they have production in California. Anyways, my first double feature, Pretty in Pink, Some Kind of Wonderful.
All right, nice.
Cool.
And I'm glad that you're getting on those John Hughes.
I've watched so many. It's just so many that I haven't seen.
Yeah,
and I'm moving through them. Some Kind of Wonderful. That was the first time I watched it.
So when this topic came up, it was pretty cool because double features have been a big deal for me for most of my life, and so
hey, that's not right.
Not our
it's
top
not
five.
Right.
So back as I've mentioned in previous episodes, my family's routine with me and my parents used to go to the drive-in pretty much every Saturday, and they would always show a double feature. So it always Mike has also brought this up about drive-ins. It would sometimes it would be related, they would be a double feature that correlated, but most of the times it was just two random ass movies that you paid to go see. And so I loved it. And so one of the other things that I grew up watching on Saturday afternoons on Channel 20 out of Detroit was called the Thriller Double Feature, and it was two horror movies. Again, it was most of the time it was randomly picked, the two together, but I lived and breathed that. That's where I watched a ton of horror movies, and then always some great stuff. So I figured I should throw on a couple horror movies to go on this, and I thought this was a pretty fun one. So if you want to bring up this screen there, so the first one I'm going to go with the granddaddy of them all. Sorry, hold on. 1922's Nosferatu, one of the very first horror movies ever, featuring a pre-Dracula vampire, and so then I paired it with 2000, a movie from 2000, directed by E. Elias Merhej, and that is Shadow of the Vampire. And so Nosferatu, starring Max Schreck as the Nosferatu character. Shadow of the Vampire is the movie that is about the filming of Nosferatu, and it's a fake telling of the filming of it. Willem Dafoe plays the Max Schreck character, and in the film, he is an actual vampire, and so the director starts feeding him like townsfolk and ends up feeding him members of the cast, and just to like keep him satiated. And so while he films this film, and so I just think it's a really fun watch the actual film, and then to show the fictionalized like telling of the story afterwards, the behind the scenes of the like an actual vampire that they brought on to film this film. But yeah, I just think it was a good idea, and I liked it. So
have you actually watched?
It's awesome.
back to back, or you just?
I have,
Yeah.
I actually have. I have done this when Shadow of a Vampire came on. I guess it would be on VHS at the time. I think I had it on VHS at the time. I did them back to back, and it was pretty neat because, man, I'll tell you what, Nosferatu, like it says right there on the on my screen, it says 1922 is when that came out, and man, it is still creepy as hell. Like right now, if you watch Nosferatu right now. It is unnerving, and a lot of it has to do with Max Schreck, like the main guy. The way he looks and the way he moves is super creepy. When you watch it, like it's pretty scary. But so then when you add on to it, like another horror movie, like fictional horror movie about the filming of it, him being like it being real and like him being a real vampire, it just adds to that creepiness after you've just finished watching the film. So I thought it was fun.
When you brought up Nosferatu, I was like, oh, he's going to give us a major swerve, and the other one's going to be Dracula Dead and Loving It.
I thought that too. I actually got a movie because I thought it was going to be what was the Gary Oldman? Was that
Dracula?
Bram Stoker's
Dracula. But then I laughed and thought of the Leslie Nielsen one too, and was just had a chuckle too. So it's funny, we're on the same wavelength there.
We'll get to a little bit a little wackier pairings coming up.
Wacky pairings.
There's some wacky parents coming up.
I have no wacky.
Plenty.
All right. So yeah,
cool.
That's my number 2. Or sorry, my number 3. Number 3.
Well, no, yeah, you thought you lost a number. We were just kidding. You can say all 3 numbers.
Thanks.
Scott, hit us.
Cool.
Number 3.
Exactly. So I didn't really know how I wanted to put my list together. I wanted to put together. I haven't done these movies as a feature. I wanted to take 2 movies that I thought would fit really well together and for a reason. And I'm going to talk about that reason more so than I will actually talk about the films. But I thought, I went back, there's a trillion different possible combinations you could do. And I wanted to steer from some of like the obvious ones, like Top Gun or Days of Thunder. Like those are ones that everyone knows, but I wanted to go for some more thought-provoking ones that maybe is not quite the low-hanging fruit. So my number 3.
I hope that's not someone's on their list.
It's certainly not. I'm the biggest Tom Cruise fan here. I guarantee you it's not on his list. It was, but then I was like, that's too easy. So I wanted to get away from being too easy putting a thing together. I wanted to put my actual. If I was putting on a movie fest like WIF going on right now, these would be some of my double features that I would put and parlay on. So my number 3, the reason why I pick it is because for the climate that the world is going through now, certainly a few months ago, with the Black Power, Black Lives Matter movement, this was definitely something more thought-provoking that I thought would be very important to watch, and important in this particular order. And I'm going to start with 2013's Fruitvale Station, starring Michael B. Jordan, and I'm going to finish it with 1989 Spike Lee's masterpiece, Do the Right Thing. And the reason why I pair those 2 movies together is because it makes one thought-provoking piece on race. So the first movie begins with Michael B. Jordan, who plays Oscar. One other thing, too, Ryan Coogler's directorial debut, fantastic. And it follows Oscar on the day, and as he encounters racism and trying to set his life up and things, and it ends on a very dour note. It's a true story. I implore you to check out the specifics of that and then watch the movie. Again, Ryan Coogler ended up going on to do Creed and Black Panther, movies people have seen. Maybe they might not have seen Fruitvale Station, but to see where he really cut his teeth, it's very important to watch. But then that movie ends on a specific note as well, and more of a dour side. I'm going to pick it right back up with Do the Right Thing, because Do the Right Thing brings a conversation of race, but on a more dual-sided part. So the argument states then on Sal, and you get Sal and the white Italians and the pizzeria, as well as the black New Yorkers who go into the pizzeria. And there's lots of conversations on that. So while Fruitvale Station follows essentially just Oscar through his, Do the Right Thing is more of like a larger film that has multiple characters as well. And there's some incredible dialogue back and forth that goes on between the characters. And again, much like the climax of Fruitvale Station, there is a death that divides everybody through the middle. But I bring Do the Right Thing as the second film because now you're already watched a more modern telling of that event. And with Fruitvale Station, you certainly fall one side or the other. But with Do the Right Thing, there's a lot of gray areas there, and that's what Spike does very well in that film. But in seeing Fruitvale Station first and then following up and then seeing what happens to Radio Raheem and Do the Right Thing, it just, I think, brings a more powerful, thought-provoking way to view the film. So that's why I pair Fruitvale Station with Do the Right Thing, because in today's climate, I think it's a very important watch to do both. And it's one that will keep you thinking afterwards, certainly. So that was just one I thought of earlier today and was like, damn, that's a really good double feature.
And you would watch them in that order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, and we'll talk about too. I mean, whether or not you'd say it does or doesn't, I have a specific reason why. And like, I wouldn't want to end on Fruitvale Station because I think Fruitvale Station's a more narrow film. So I start with that so you can watch Oscar's Journey, and then Do the Right Thing is a bigger film, more bombastic too. Certainly that third act, Do the Right Thing, is a giant, it's almost like a superhero budget style film. And then, like I said, at the end, I listened to a podcast where Spike Lee said, the funny thing about Do the Right Thing is that people ask him if Mookie, his character in the movie, does the right thing. And the only people who've ever asked him in 30 years have been white people. Black people will never ask him if Mookie does the right thing. So I think by watching Fruitvale Station first and then seeing Do the Right Thing, you know whether Mookie did the right thing and where you fall on that. So I specifically think it hinges on that order, because if you flip them, I don't think it has the same effect.
And after picking Do the Right Thing, you could have gone with like any other Spike Lee movie, because
I tried
the subject matter is race, but you didn't. You found something else.
Yeah, you could. And that's what I mean. Like, I wouldn't want to pick, and I did. I originally had an honorable mention that was two directors' things, but I think the fun of what I want to put together is two films, not just that like copy the same plot, but when you take a step back, different directors that do fun movies like that. Like, I certainly had an honorable mention that was done by the two directors, and there was a connective tissue, but ultimately it wasn't as thought-provoking. I'm going to go thought-provoking through my whole thing. Sure. So certainly, so that's my number 3. I could have done a different other Spike, but I wanted to make sure I kept his remake of Old Boy out of this. I'm joking.
Okay, that was excellent. Double Mint Mike.
Nice.
So I'm going to do the exact opposite of Scott. I'm going to pick the same directors. I'm not going to be thought-provoking at all.
Pick up pick the fruit off the ground.
And I'm going to go in any order you want. So my number 3 is actually more of a thought experiment. I have not watched these two back to back. I watched one recently because it's a year old. And then when this topic came up, I don't know what inspired me to think of these two, but it just like popped into my head. So I'm going to go with two films that really deal a lot with just the past and traditions, and ones that to most people nowadays will seem really bizarre and odd, and it's what makes both of these films very uncomfortable. So I am going with 2004's The Village, which you can pull up on the screen there if you want, Matt. And to pair that off, I am going to go with 2019's Midsummer, which I've talked about. I've talked about that in the past, so I'm not going to go really too in depth. If you want to learn about Midsummer, you can watch our mind-bending episode. But for me, these two films have the same eerie, and for very different reasons, but the same eerie feel of just like a world that doesn't exist anymore. You know, people holding on to these traditions that just seem very bizarre, and in one, horrific, and in the other one, they do it out of necessity. But what I really like about the two of these is not only that they're just in their own world, it's all occurring in sort of the present day at the time. And I mean, spoiler for one of them, but you have this little snapshot where everyone else is doing everything. We're on our iPhones, we're doing whatever, things are going on, crime's happening, but these little things are occurring. And what I like about the two is you get Shyamalan's Village, which is like just a veritable all-star cast, right? You know, you've got William Hurt and Joaquin Phoenix and Sigourney Weaver and Adrian Brody and Brendan Gleeson and on and on. And then you go to this Midsummer, and you essentially have just nobodies. You know, I mean, there's a couple names there now, and I just kind of like the parallel of let's get an all-star cast and see what you can do with something like this, and then let's get some nobodies. But what I do like too about both of these and why I would do them back to back is just the unsettling feeling you get when you watch both of them, and just the little scenes that occur that make you just kind of go, oh, and it's not like, at least in Village, it's not like it's overly scary, but you just have these like little moments, right, that are just like, oh, wow, okay, I get it. There's a big sort of twist in this film, but that's not the connection that I go with. But then you have Midsummer that has just some extremely unsettling moments that occur, and you just have to turn away. But I just feel like, to me, for some reason, they just fit perfectly. Not the same director, not the same paths at all in the end. But so that's my number 3.
Yeah, I like that
was
a lot.
Great. That was really good. I had fruit. That was a good one.
I had I think it's being sarcastic earlier, but I had a very obvious one on there with Wicker Man and Midsummer, right? Because basically they're essentially almost the exact same kind of movie, and I was like, oh, that's too much. That's too similar and just too obvious.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm glad that you did that. That makes it a lot more interesting.
It was fun too.
Midsummer.
It was fun too because so I'll sit down and watch a lot of these with my wife, and we hadn't seen The Village in a while, so I didn't do them back to back. But I had just recently done Midsummer, and then it made us be like, "Oh, let's watch The Village again." And watching it the second time around, we were both just like, "Wow!" I know a lot of people take or leave his films, but I just love The Village. It's one of my top ones of his films, just because of it's just more original, I think, than some of the others. But anyways,
now I haven't seen either of those movies, but judging by the pictures you've used, I would certainly use as a double feature since they both have flower crowns. So if I were to do the Flower Crown Film Festival, they'd be
that seems to be the old, like, oh, these people are from a time forgotten. Put a flower crown on them.
Yes.
It's Coachella. The Flower Crown Festival is Coachella.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. My number 2. Again, I mean, I think Scott is setting the bar. I don't want to say high, but he's got his own list. I'm not judging your list. I think it's fantastic, but I am picking my low-hanging fruit for sure. And I mean, this one might be on the second branch. It's not that low. What were you saying, Mike?
Is it Days of Thunder and Top Gun?
That's the number one. Everyone knows. Everyone knows. Tom Cruise in a jet. Tom Cruise in a car. Please continue.
Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Now, obviously, 2 video game movies.
Yeah.
Both based on round fighting video games. I just watched High Scores, which, Mike, I know you're a fan of, that documentary series.
Yeah.
And they did a whole episode on the violence in video games, and started with Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat being far more violent than Street Fighter, but both round fighting video games. And to base movies on them, seems simple. I mean, Marvel does it for comic books these days all the time. You take the game and put it on the screen. The games themselves are based on like Bruce Lee movies where fighters from all around the world enter a tournament and beat each other up. I think Street Fighter was closer to Bloodsport, though.
I was just going to say Bloodsport. Love Bloodsport.
So Bloodsport, Enter the Dragon, movies like that inspired these video games, which in turn are based, which these movies are based on. Now, these movies have often become considered bad. Maybe even when they came out, the critics didn't like them all that much. But these came out in like 94, 95. So I'm 9 and 10 years old.
Yeah.
These movies were amazing in my eyes.
Yeah.
Saw them in the theaters. The characters looked just like they did in the video game, essentially. When you see Scorpion and Sub-Zero come through that ship door, they're wearing the right colors, in the right style. They got their masks and vests. They look amazing. Later on, you get to see Goro. It's like, whose puppetry and, maybe some claymation type dates the movie for sure as far as visual effects are concerned, but I think is amazing. Both movies are hilarious. Street Fighter has Jean-Claude Van Damme and Raul Julia acting off each other. Raul Julia is so over the top that it's fantastic.
Took the role for his son, I believe, whose son was a monster Street Fighter fan, so he took the role. So his son.
Really? Well, that makes perfect sense.
It's like that's the story I knew before I watched the movie, and he just hams it up. And his son was on set with like big smile, and he's like, "It was the best job I had," because his son was a huge Street Fighter fan.
Sadly, for a lot of people, it was his final movie.
Mhm.
So that's kind of, it's like, it's too bad that had to be his last movie because he's such a good actor. And his final movie was, quote unquote, a bad movie. But if you watch The Addams Family, his performance is the same. He is up here. He is, loud and proud and hilarious. He's just having so much fun making that movie, is what it looks like to me. But all of the characters fit their movie counterparts perfectly. The video games would often have biographies on the characters on like a side screen, and all you have to do is type that into a script and be like, here, you're playing a person from this area, this is your background, now act. But I think these movies are terrific. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, my number 2.
Hey, forget what the critics say. I mean, clearly not two films that were made for critics in the first place.
Yeah.
They did exactly what they were aiming for,
totally.
right? They got the kids who love those games a film that they could watch, which is what happened when they came out. I loved watching Mortal Kombat.
And
Mortal Kombat is definitely great. I wouldn't even say Mortal Kombat is bad. I would definitely say that Street Fighter is a bad film, whether you enjoy it or not. I think it's a bad film, but I don't think Mortal Kombat is a bad film.
No, I think it's pretty especially for what it is. You expect it to be worse, and then you get pleasantly surprised. I think
it's a pretty decent film,
and especially when they have that sequel to compare it to.
Yeah.
That Annihilation.
But not the show. The show is pretty killer. The show is better than both of those movies.
The show that came out around the same time?
Legacy. Mortal Kombat Legacy.
Was that
remember that was a web series?
Yeah, that was more recent. That was really good.
Yeah, and it is amazing.
But
off the charts,
good. I think in the mid to late 90s, I think it was maybe just for Australian audiences, Mortal Kombat, they had a TV show that I don't think I've ever seen, but I know exists.
Was it like the Mario Brothers and they're in the basement?
Awesome.
But both movies made close to or over $100 million. So whether the critics liked it or not,
yep,
the audience was there, obviously. Yeah, sure. AB, let's keep the ball rolling.
My number 2. So we recently did another episode about con men, and so I watched a movie for that, thinking I was going to put it on that list, and so as I was watching that movie, I was like, started making parallels to another movie, and I knew that we were going to be doing this topic, so I'm like, I'm going to pull it right off of this list and I'm going to slap it on this list because it's pretty great pairing. And so the movie that I was watching at the time, hold on, okay, hold on. Oops.
I think he's playing Mortal Kombat right now.
Yeah.
Back forward. Back forward.
What the heck happened here?
Finish him.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Okay, so that movie is from 1988, directed by Martin Brest. It is Midnight Run with De Niro and Charles Grodin. And so as I'm watching it, they start off, and if you don't know the movie, Robert De Niro is a bounty hunter that collects Charles Grodin, who is scammed a crime boss, and who is played by Dennis Farina, who is awesome. And so they're literally on the run from the crime bosses, and Robert De Niro's trying to get them in to cash them in. And so it starts off, he tries to take them on a plane. Charles Grodin is having none of it. He has like a fake panic attack, so he doesn't have to go in it. So then he goes on a train, and so they're on the train for a while, and they have to jump off a train, at which point they steal an automobile. So I paired that with 1987's directed by John Hughes, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Fun. That's fun.
I thought you were going to say throw mama from the train when you were...
No, I was like, literally, this is the exact same kind of movie. I'm like, it's like about an odd couple. You got Charles Grodin and De Niro fighting the whole time. They hate each other's guts. They can't stand each other. Charles Grodin's annoying the shit out of Robert De Niro, and then like literally in Planes, Trains, and Automobile, it's like a goofier version of that where obviously John Candy is annoying the hell out of Steve Martin, but at the end of both of them, they reconcile and they almost become sort of friends.
So what's your triple feature? What's your third one?
Due date.
Yep.
Due date.
I know that steals from both of these movies, but I'm not putting that on there. But
I just was about to say it.
I actually, it's like legit. I love both of these movies, and I don't know, for whatever reason, up until this point I never really put those connections together until I sat down and was watching Midnight Run, and I was like, and so Midnight Run is, I thought you started off first because it's more of a buddy cop action, even though it's not cops, but it's like a buddy cop kind of actiony comedy. It's still got the comedy, and then you just go full bore goofy to finish it off.
I agree.
And like I just think it would really play well to play on like a Saturday afternoon if you're like chilling out watching something light watch in the afternoon. I think it'd be pretty fun double feature. So that's my number 2.
Yep, let's go.
Just saw for the first time, because it was on my list earlier about movies I've never seen, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I watched it 2 nights ago.
Awesome.
Who wants to see the remake with me?
Never.
Wait, hold on. What was your favorite? The planes? What did you like better, the planes, the trains, or the automobiles?
The automobiles.
Can I add that to another list? Can I add the remake to another list that we're going to be talking about?
What, the automobile for the mess around scene? Is that
the mess around goes into the
you're driving the wrong way.
Goes into driving the wrong way, which goes into the car catching fire. Is hilarious.
Are they skeletons too? Does it cut?
He goes devil. It goes. He goes to the devil.
Is unbelievable. Yeah. That's what it is. Because I'm thinking of the Home Alone. I thought, he turns to the devil is phenomenal.
You are right, though. They do flash into skeletons for a quick frame.
Do they? The Home Alone 2 bit? Yes. I thought so. Yeah, okay. So it's the automobiles.
My favorite part in there by far is
the devil can't
Steve Martin at the rental car company, and when he's talking to the lady at the counter.
Yeah.
Like, I just want 4 effing wheels and a effing steering wheel. And
you just made me think that I might switch that pairing up and go Tommy Boy in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
So I was listening to a podcast today talking about road movies. And they made Tommy that too, but that's a little too on the nose too. That's a little too on the nose too, where it's basically Tommy Boy is playing a lot off of Planes, Trains.
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing for a double.
No, it's not. And I love both those movies, but I think it's a little too on the nose where it's you're watching the same movie, like very similar movie on both of it. Because I thought about that where Tom, especially after that podcast this morning, I was like, oh, okay, but you're basically it's the same kind of feel.
You're acting like that's a negative. I think sometimes you want to do that. You watch one, you're like, this is so good, but I want a little twist on it. I don't want to watch it again, but I want to watch something like it. That's how I would. Not to take away from your pairing, it just made me think of it. That's
sure.
Anyways, Scott, enlighten us.
So my number 2. So with my number 3, we talked about the Black Lives Matter movement. My number 2, let's talk about the treatment of veterans. So I want to talk with this double feature. We're going to go with 2 films that came out the same year. Now, Hollywood is filled with that. We can go through the long, long laundry list of 2 films that come out together that have the same kind of plot points or main beats or something like that. These both came out in 1985. One was a monster hit, at least top 3, and then another one was a moderate hit, but a star-making quality. The reason why I picked this is because it's anchored by their 2 leads, similar plots with a little bit of a twist. And I'm going to start my double feature here off with Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando, and I'm finishing it with Sylvester Stallone's Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Great.
And the reason why I picked that is because you're looking at 2 films about veterans. And I think it's important to start off with Commando because that's a more light, bubbly. It's Arnold being Arnold. You get that. You get the mindless killing, and you have a lot of fun with it. You get the jokes. You get the one-liners. I want to start at Boombastic. Then I bring everyone down with Rambo First Blood Part 2, which is a way more cerebral film. And that's what Stallone has always been known for as an actor, especially at that time. And he's doing quieter films. And Rambo First Blood Part 2 has the history of like killing and stuff. You ultimately get that with 3, then 4, and then 5 as well. But 1 and 2 are very quiet films. And I thought about twisting this, and I think some people will think you start with Rambo, but Rambo has that really, really dour ending where he has the line, I want a country to care for their veterans as much as their veterans care about that. And I'm like, you can't really come back with mindless killing and watching Arnold do his thing after that. It kind of sucks a little bit of the fun, because Rambo definitely plants like a stake in the ground and tells you which side that movie is on. So I really want to go with Commando in that. Another reason too, the reason I'm going to spend the most of my time talking about, you could write a thesis paper on Stallone versus Schwarzenegger, and this movie encapsulates that perfectly, because you get at the time, mid 80s, the two almost perfect definition of what masculinity is at that time. You get them at a crossroads of their path, and at this point, Stallone had already had the Oscar. He was on Rocky 3, came out that year, monster year, Rocky 3 and Rambo 2, as well as Arnold had just done Terminator the year before and was making his own name. So they were kind of like this. But Arnold had the bodybuilding background, the size and all this, whereas Stallone was more cut and more lean. So again, you get them doing their thing, which... And as they come, it does just make for, the first one is in Commando, he's trying to get his daughter back, whereas in Rambo, he's trying to free the POWs and the prisoners. And I just thought that was another really fun double feature that you could enjoy mindlessly, have some fun, look at, which side of the camp you're on, if you're a Team Arnold or a Team Sly or you're both or however. And then again, you bring it back with like the more thought-provoking war film that Rambo Part 2 is. So again, my number 2 double feature at SIFF, Scott's International Film Festival, 1985's Commando, followed by 1985's Rambo First Blood Part 2.
You had me at Commando, Team Arnold.
Yeah.
And then you lost me at Rambo.
So that's the thing. And I mean, I think about this. Like, I'm a monster, like you, monster Arnold guy.
Yeah.
But Stallone has the Rocky franchise. And I like Terminator, but I'm like, Sly can do a little bit more dramatic work a little bit better. Now Arnold gets there, but there's that wonderful debate that
Sly
they have.
can't do comedy.
What's that?
Sly can't do comedy.
I disagree. He's hilarious.
I don't know. Don't shoot my mom.
Throw mama
don't shoot.
Stop her, my mom will shoot.
I feel like actually the story of that was, I think Arnold told him it was the best script he'd ever read, and I think Sly
it was all a sham. It was all a scam to try and
so
get him to
there's
do
like,
things.
again, watching those two movies, you get that backstory, that rivalry. They hated each other, but then ultimately they come together. They're friends. They do the Planet Hollywood thing. And I just think that's a perfect, Expendables, of course. I think that's perfect. I don't want to put Rocky and Terminator or anything else, but they, for that 1 year, both did war films that were both different. And again, like I said, it allows for a little bit. And then, like I said, you do Commando first, followed by Rambo second, and then Rambo ends on a more dour note. So
cool.
Great. Whenever I think of Rambo, or First
I know
Blood
what you're gonna say.
Rambo 2, whatever. Obviously, Hot Shots Part 2.
Yeah.
Which combines
that movie.
2 and 3.
I rewatched Rambo on quarantine, and I watched 1 and 2. They're unbelievable. Right. And they get like, that franchise gets a bad rap. It starts off really thought-provoking and smart. And then Hot Shots and just like the sequels turned it into mindless. But 1 is incredible, and 2 is just as good.
Yeah, I would definitely give you 1 for sure. And I really like its portrayal of, like you said, the vets, the treatment of the vets. And,
treatment?
He just wants to be left alone. Like the whole thing is like, he comes back. He's not trying to fit into society. He's just trying to be left alone.
It's incredible.
They won't let him do it. And like that is one Sly movie that I will stand by.
And you know what's wild? We'll get out of here on this. I had watched Rambo 1 probably 6 years ago when I first moved into my old apartment in 2014, and I was like, "Is this?" I've always thought Rambo was just, mindless killing. I'm like, this is unbelievable.
That's the thing. Like you said, that's the sequels. That's the sequels that have influenced
history hasn't
everyone
been kind
thinking
to that
about
movie,
it.
But that movie is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Mike, those movies could have made either one of my other kinds of lists.
All
right, so
Favorite sequels?
Let's go lowbrow. Sure. Yeah, sure. I'd have to watch the first one first before I watch the second one. So let's go with the same director. And if you have 6+ hours on a given Sunday, then you will want to check out these two. You can cut to the photos if you want, Matt. I added the gentleman to the photos. Well, I didn't add him. He was there. Someone took that. I'm not that good. But those two films, if you don't know, get out of here. No. Goodfellas and Casino. Robert De Niro, it's no secret. It was good to see him on one of Andrew's. He is my guy. I love a good De Niro film. These aren't necessarily my favorite. I think maybe Bronx Tale might be my favorite De Niro film, but I absolutely love me some Goodfellas. And the only thing I need more of is Robert De Niro starring, and that's why I'm all about Casino. If I were to pick the two, Casino for me is my favorite of the two, because it's all about Ace, right? And just so I had done Goodfellas recently when we had done another category or a top 5. I had watched it. So then I was like, all right, here we go. Let's go with Casino, and did not disappoint on my 15th viewing or whatever. Absolutely love it. Joe Pesci is hilarious in it. Sharon Stone is great at being the most annoying human being on the face of the earth in that film.
Though.
So good at just making me hate her, but that's her role, and she got the noms for it, and I think she got a Golden Globe for it. And James Woods is being as creepy can be. So you can watch them in any order you want. If you want to go, I kind of go chronologically a lot of times. So Goodfellas coming first 5 years before, but that's my number 2, Goodfellas and Casino.
That's solid.
I'm part of the. Goodfellas is a better movie. I'm part of the likes Casino more for a couple reasons. 3 in particular. I think De Niro's suits are incredible, and I do love.
Oh my gosh,
I love
gorgeous.
the stylish.
They're
2,
gorgeous.
I love that it's Vegas, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And 3, I love James Woods in that movie. James Woods is so scummy in that movie that it just, on personal preference, I always put Casino more. I know Goodfellas is a better movie. It's incredible.
Goodfellas is cool, but it's like you said, Casino focuses on, of course, a casino and a guy running a casino, whereas Goodfellas, there's lots of parts to it, right? Like there's part 1, part 2, part 3 kind of thing.
And
whereas
I think
Casino is just the ins and outs, right? It's so cool to see.
I like how they showed kind of the history of that, and I'm a Goodfellas guy. I like Goodfellas more than Casino, but I do love Casino. How they basically showed how the mob and the thing use the casinos to kind of filter their money through, and
Absolutely.
I really like that history. The actual when they show the actual history. It's a fictional story, but
that's why I think they pair well together, because obviously Goodfellas is all about the mob, and then Casino, it's like, okay, now here's what some mobsters did somewhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
I think Scorsese takes cooler cinematography, graphic style shots in Casino more than Goodfellas. Goodfellas is nice; it's got that tracking shot, but the sunglass scene in Casino.
Come on, you're talking about
it's very straightforward. But he does more with the explosion in Casino and the shots off. I believe it's off Pesci's glasses is iconic. So I always found with Casino he takes more bolder looks. Like it just looks framed differently.
It's prettier, right?
Yeah, it's way prettier. It's way glossier, and it's just because Goodfellas is an incredible main course. And it's like a 40-ounce steak, but it's just, it's like the average. It's just very straightforward. And there's some good stuff. Like that tracking shot is incredible. And the scenes are great. But I just think, same thing. I think Casino has higher highs in instances.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I love both those movies very much. And I think they are a perfect double feature for the reason that when Goodfellas reaches its 3rd act, you can get up, go to the bathroom, grab Casino off the shelf, let that 3rd act run, because I don't like watching it anyways, and having Casino ready for when Goodfellas ends.
Yeah. So for you always thought,
you don't like
you always thought that the end of Goodfellas, he was in a casino all of a sudden. You're like, wait a minute, that's right.
I love that
he
helicopter
starts dressing all crazy and flashy. You're like, man, he's really stepped it up.
Leota's sick in that helicopter scene. I think you got to give the 3rd act, that whole helicopter, that half hour is awesome, man.
I love it all, man.
It does you watch the whole movie and then you get there and it stalls a little bit. It needs to happen.
It stalls because all the bad things start happening to you, Leota, and it's kind of like the reality check. But I think it's great because for all the wannabe gangsters out there, and it's this is what really happens.
Yeah. Movies like that cannot have a
lifestyle, but
ending.
this is reality.
Yeah. But for pacing, and if you've seen it multiple times, you kind of go, okay, next movie, like, because you know.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your number 2. So we go to our honorable mentions.
Oh yeah.
But first, an ad break. I know the audience has been noticing our swag.
I noticed you noticing me. I put you on notice. I noticed
this episode, and you can get stuff like this at wearitproud.ca for all your Mack Flash merch. Got hoodies, t-shirts, toques,
and women's tank tops, but not men's.
Women's tank tops.
I ordered a women's XXL.
And even masks for when you need to go into the store.
And possibly, I hear somewhere down the road, maybe robes if you need them for another show that we're on. But
so wearitproud.ca, you can find all your Mack Flash merch there. Now, our honorable mentions. I'm going to make a change in my list here.
Yeah, I made
and move an honorable mention to my list.
Oh,
moving into the honorable mentions now is my former number 1, Top Gun and Days of Thunder.
Oh my god!
The fuck up! Is it actually?
Swear to God, it's right there.
I'm sorry. I didn't think you. Holy shit! It was mine too. It was in my honorable mentions, but I was like, it's like everyone knows that one. It's fucking amazing. Let's talk about it. Tom Cruise is so handsome.
No, he can't. It's on
I love it.
Honorable mentions.
And along with that, any Sean Connery James Bond movie and The Rock.
Nice.
Great. That's what I thought. Awesome.
Old retired James Bond.
Absolutely. That's exactly who he is.
Let's say Goldfinger and The Rock, because that's
cool.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
All right. My honorable mentions. Okay, so we're gonna start. You fire it up there.
Oops.
Oh, you got pictures for honorable mentions? That's too much time.
All right. So it is Drive and it is Michael Mann's Thief.
Wow, I am HARD right now thinking I love both of those films.
So Refn definitely stole like the whole style from the movie Thief to make his
you
style.
Gotta flip it. You can't start with Drive. Drive will put too many people to sleep.
Too bad.
Hey, wait, hold on.
Start with
Are we
Drive?
talking about these honorable mentions? What's happening?
Okay, so those are my own mentions. And so my next one, this was my number 1 for the longest time. And I actually did this thing on Saturday. And it's like Mike said, it's 6 hours. His was 6 hours. Mine is also almost 6 hours. And it was way too on the nose. Like it's basically the same movie.
Yeah.
And so it is Seven Samurai, directed by Akira Kurosawa, and Magnificent Seven by John Sturges. It's basically, I mean, it is literally a remake. It's a Western remake of Seven Samurai. And so I watched it back to back for the first time ever. And I was like, I'm basically watching the movie twice.
Yep, there's 7 of them.
Almost the exact same guys. Like exact same characters,
Yeah,
exact
it's
same
not that
kind of
fun.
plot. Like it was not enjoyable.
It's a remake. It's a remake which got remade again and has been remade several times.
1,000 times. Like even like the structure of the story has been used and abused for like decades now in so many movies. It's like it will be funny because like even like the Man with No Name trilogy, like the Eastwood trilogy, like even that has shades of Seven Samurai in it as well, where he shows up in town and like saves all the villagers. Right up until also one of the big ones is Three Amigos. Three Amigos is 100% Magnificent Seven and Seven Samurai.
A Bug's Life is the same thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh.
Scott.
Yeah, so this one, again, was my number 1 for the longest time. I ultimately thought it wasn't going to make a great one, and it's 1995's Heat. You got me back on with the De Niro stuff. So in Heat, he mentions having a brother somewhere, but you don't get any more follow-up of that. So I'm partnering it with 2004's Collateral.
Yeah,
and I always like to think of Tom Cruise as De Niro's brother in that film. They both have the same look, the hair, everything about it. L.A. is an awesome character. And then my other double feature is going to be Jerry Maguire, with another movie that a lot of people haven't heard of, and it's called Begin Again with Mark Ruffalo. So Jerry Maguire plays a disgraced sports agent, whereas Begin Again, Mark Ruffalo plays a disgraced music producer. So it's got a great cast, Keira Knightley. It follows the same kind of story beat, but I think that pairs well with doing the sports first. Everyone knows the big movie. Stick around and watch a similar movie with a different coat of paint told in the music industry.
Great.
Good.
Mike?
All right. Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Come on.
That's great. Everyone's done that. That's awesome.
And Plan 9 from Outer Space and Ed Wood, because that's about.
Oh,
there you
okay.
go. I like that.
Yes.
I like that a lot. I actually have done that. I did that in the reverse though.
For the same reason,
I watch Ed Wood, and then right after I'm like, man, I gotta watch Plan 9.
You can do mine in any order.
For the same reason too, I think I was going to do Disaster Artist in The Room first, and then it's the same thing. And Ed Wood's a better movie than Disaster Artist, I think. So perfect. That's awesome.
That's fun.
Okay, moving on. Yes, our number one. We'll start with me. My number one is two movies that I've mentioned on my list quite a few times. I think they're two of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, I know exactly.
Directed by my favorite director of all time. My number one double feature is obviously Jaws and Jurassic Park.
It's damn good.
Oh, nice that you got the art put up for this.
Yeah. And we did this list, not too long ago in a bar. We did our favorite spiritual sequels. That was the top of that list. And I've talked about these movies a few times, so I didn't want to discuss them into too much depth here. But since Top Gun and Days of Thunder got kicked to the can, I might as well go with my favorite.
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm sorry, man.
No, you shouldn't. I'm messing with you. But yeah, both Steven Spielberg classics. Both have like the exact same beginning to a film. Jaws starts with Christy Walken swimming out, getting eaten by a shark. Jurassic Park starts with a park worker getting eaten by a velociraptor. You don't see the animal actually killing them, but it's terrifying beyond any belief. I mean, their performances convince you completely that they're being eaten and killed and becoming the poo of some kind of animal.
I don't think I thought of that, but I will now.
The movies continue in the same fashion. Slightly different though. Jaws obviously is far more concerned for public safety through Roy Scheider's point of view.
Okay. Not the
Mayor Vaughn, not so much.
Except for Larry.
Yeah.
The mayor.
Jurassic Park, kind of the same way. John Hammond, he's like, let's open the park. It's ready to go. But all of the other paleontologists and Jeff Goldblum say, no, you shouldn't.
Nice. That's nice.
And then later on, we're going to see why, because these animals get out, start eating people. Jaws, they go out to find after he eats the Kittner kid. The stars here, here we go. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. They get on a boat, head out to the open ocean to find the thing and try to kill it. We lose Robert Shaw in the midst of all that.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Oh, he usually looks like this.
Yeah, there you go.
I have that pop.
I do too.
But yeah, I honestly watch them one right after the other all the time because they're not very long movies, and they fit the subject matter. I both have digital copies, so I don't have to leave my seat to switch discs or anything. It's just click and click again. Let's go. Let's keep the good times rolling. Nice. My number one, Jaws, Jurassic Park.
Do they not also both have sequels where the creature winds up somewhere in New York or something? Is that
San Fran? I don't know where.
Okay, but the United States, like another, they follow the.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I guess
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen any Jaws sequels.
Yeah.
I was like, are you guys being serious? I'm like, okay, never mind.
I haven't. No, absolutely not.
You haven't seen any of the Jaws sequels?
Nope.
Oh my gosh!
He refused it.
That's fun. That's really fun. Then
we'll talk about that in a future episode.
Hey!
Oh man! Wow.
So moving on. AB, you're number one.
Okay, my number one, and Scott. Yeah, I can see you're glued to your seat. You're going to love this. This is my thought-provoking one for the day, and I actually did this. I actually did this double feature last night, and it's cemented as my number one because I was like, damn. This goes so well together, and it is one of the most intense double features I've ever done in my life. Like it was so good. So we'll start off with the 2010, directed by Darren Aronofsky. You want to bring it up? We're gonna go Black Swan, and so I took Black Swan, and I paired it with 2014, directed by Damien Chazelle, and we're gonna go a little bit of Whiplash.
Oh,
That's
man.
great.
And
That's
so
unbelievable.
So both of these movies are about
It's really good.
Obsession with perfection, about the performing arts and wanting to perform to high standards, striving to be the best. And literally in both of them, as I was watching it last night, she literally says to Winona Ryder's character, "I want to be perfect," right? And in Whiplash, he literally says, "I want to be perfect." Right. And so I'm watching it and I'm like, man, this is so killer. Obviously, they go in very different directions. And so what I did for mine was I watched Black Swan first because it ends on such a little downer that, it goes where it goes and goes very horribly at the end, whereas Whiplash is such a satisfying and
You gotta do Whiplash
exhilarating
second.
ending. It ends and you're just like, oh man, I feel so satisfied now after watching both of them. And
Awesome.
both of them, the entire time last night, I'm on the edge of my seat. It's like 4 hours, almost 4 hours for the two of them together. I was on my edge of my seat the entire time. I would not recommend this if you have high blood pressure. To do this together, you might have a panic attack and bad things happen. But it just really meshed well together, and I love both of these films. Again, they're very different, but also they feel spiritually spiritual cousins for sure. So that's my number one, and I highly recommend it if you like both these movies to try putting them together because I think they really match well.
I enjoy your connection. I liked that connection.
Thanks.
I like those movies a lot, and I will do that double feature.
That's a great one.
Soon, I guess.
Yeah.
When you started introing it, for some reason, I thought you were going to say Human Centipede 1 and 2. And then I don't know why, but then I was like, oh, phew.
Because they connect so well.
Yeah, they fit.
I have not watched either of those films, so I cannot make that double feature.
I
If
do
you want to
say-
make that double feature, you can do that.
One thing I'll say, Whiplash too. I always in high regard. I think the greatest acting performance, and say if you want to narrow it to supporting acting, I do think is Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. I think number 2 is J.K. Simmons in that film. If you had me power rank every supporting Academy Award winner, that's my 1 and that's my 2, and then 3 to 90 could fluctuate differently. But I think cemented J.K. Simmons is that top 3 greatest supporting performance of all time. He is unbelievable as Fletcher.
And as much as he it kills it, absolutely destroys that movie. Miles Teller keeps up with him.
Yeah,
he keeps up with him. You would think with that strong of a performance that he would just destroy Miles Teller, and I mean he kind of does in the context of the film, but not. He still goes toe to toe with them and with the acting, and right up until the end where they're literally facing off on stage, and it's that ending. I remember sitting in the theater for the 2 hours in the theater, literally on the edge of my seat and not breathing for 5 whole minutes of that final scene. That final scene, I did not notice, but when that movie completed, when the movie and the credits rolled, I went
yeah, no doubt, I can see that
because I was holding my breath and I didn't realize I was holding my breath the entire time because I was like, holy crap. But anyway.
Did you see it at WIF? I saw it at WIF. Did you see it or did you see it in theaters?
I saw it at the mall.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I saw it at the mall. But love them. Yeah, those are my number 1. Go ahead.
Cool.
Do it.
Okay, so my third film wrestled with. This is gonna be funny. My third film wrestled with the Black Lives Matter movement. My second one was the treatment of veterans. My number 1 double feature, and say it with me, A Cab. And I'm gonna pair. I'm gonna pair 1997's L.A. Confidential with 2001's Training Day.
We're going to save that for our other conversations later.
What?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Just joking.
Okay. So with this, I'm going to go. So 1997's LA Confidential follows three cops. They investigate in almost a neo-noir kind of thing as dead prostitutes and actresses and glamour. The biggest thing that goes between these two, Los Angeles being a massive character in this. So with LA Confidential, it basically follows your main cop is very straight-laced, clean-cut. He's your good guy, and it deals with tons and tons and tons of corruption set in LA. But the thing about leading with LA Confidential, again, it's a predominantly white version of LA. Everyone's beautiful. It's violent, and it gets to the seedy bit. But again, it's one good cop's struggle to stay clean, set at the backdrop of 1950s Hollywood, Los Angeles. And then you follow it up with 2001's Training Day. Same kind of plot and premise, but you're getting the seedier underside of East LA and Compton, and it's one clean-cut rookie narc officer partnering with a very intense, incredible performance by Denzel Washington, and it's leading him through on his day, trying to navigate through what's right, what's wrong, corruption, this, that. But again, Los Angeles being a very central figure of it, but it's now the secondary side. And also, aside from the years, you're getting 50s and 2000s. I'm also going with Training Day second, due to the fact is that after LA Confidential, which is a big movie, it was based on a novel, and there's tons of characters in it, and lots of plate spinning and storylines and that. Training Day kicks off immediately, and it's a kick to the gut when he says, "You in the office, baby." His Monte Carlo hits the hydraulics, and Still Dre from 2001, Dr. Dre's album hits. It's so banging, and that movie does not let up. So other than the fact that you get the main protagonist dealing with corruption inside of their unit, I think it makes for an incredible microcosm of how Los Angeles can look for the rich white sector versus the poor black sector, spread 50 years apart. And I'm going with LA Confidential and Training Day as my number one double feature.
That's great. I love that. Fantastic. You know my feelings towards LA Confidential. That's definitely high on my list.
So again, Oscar winning performances with that. Again, you get Kim Basinger in LA, and then you get Denzel's tour de force finally winning the best lead actor, adding it. He already had the supporting, but now that makes him one of the very few double winners as well. So
Right.
King Kong. That was improvised, that line too. I did a whole Training Day pod. I watched it and I did a whole pod. That line was improvised. That's a master right there.
For sure. Mike.
All right,
let's end the show with your number one.
Yeah, let's jump to a couple films that have some memorable lines for me. This was my number one or two, if you want to call it, because it's a double feature. Was set right off the bat when you said the topic. I knew the films. Because they're a snapshot of time in time. 1995 is the time when I was in high school. And these two films essentially sort of tell the story of my life at that time period in time. And those are Empire Records and Mallrats.
For sure.
That's really good. That's great.
That is a double feature that I could do probably any day of the week, any order. It doesn't matter to me. I could watch Empire Records twice and then Mallrats twice. It doesn't even matter. They're just so good. And you want to talk about sort of snapshots. Empire Records sort of fine-tunes it because it's just a record store, whereas Mallrats is you're in sort of that life of, going to the mall every day. But just for me, it's, CDs, Walkman, going to the record store all the time. For me, Dr. Disc, right? Always going to Dr. Disc, finding that new CD or getting that new vinyl. And then at the mall, right? Just what new stores open, go to the food court, things like that. And that was what was important at the time, right? And then you pair that up with the soundtracks even for both. Just hearing like the songs when they come on, I'm like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, that's the Gin Blossoms, that's Weezer, Suzanne, all those different songs pop on. And you're like, oh, I totally can connect that scene to that movie just so well with both of these films. My favorite thing about Mallrats, though, and I'm going to show a few of them, is the store names. I completely forgot. Burning Flesh Tanning Salon, There was what was there? There was Fashionably Male.
Fashionably Male. Yeah.
Good old Rug
Maguire.
Munchers.
Is amazing.
Good old, right? The Popular Girl, and then there was one like, Time for Cookies where he was going to get the new cookie. Oh, get that cookie. Get that
Right.
cookie.
The cookie stands an autonomous
part of the food
eatery.
court.
It's not part of the
Oh
food
my
court.
gosh. And that's the thing, right? You think about it. Andrew and I are always quoting about the escalator. Not one day, right, goes by.
Yeah.
But the lines that you can pull out of both of those films, and Breakfast Come and Go, now Hartford the Whale, like all those lines, you're just like, oh, so good, so good. And that's how I feel about both those films. And Empire Records, it doesn't get as much talk as Mallrats does, but I think in nostalgia's sake, anyways, I enjoy it a little bit more only because it was just that one I watched all the time. I do love Mallrats. It's not a slight on Mallrats, but when I watched Empire Records, because it's been longer since I've seen it, I was just like, oh my gosh, why did I wait so long again to rewatch this? You know what I mean? It had that feel. So that is my number one pairing, and I don't know what can unseat that. It'll take a lot down the road to unseat that. So
I still see people every year celebrating Rex Manning Day.
yes.
And so I always laugh whenever I see
Rexy.
that. I'm like, it's Rex Manning Day.
Oh, Rexy, you're
Like,
so
what's
sexy.
sexy Rexy.
Yeah. Love it.
But yeah, what I like about both of those films, and I think it's a good connection, is it has a cast of like characters.
Yes.
Like they are not they're not really exactly stereotypes, but they are like they're their own characters, right?
Yeah.
They're very memorable characters, right? And so you can think about like the individual characters and the stuff they bring to each movie, and I think that work plays out really well too, that they have this like ensemble of goofy characters in both.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Okay. I guess that's the end of our list. Everyone's got everything they want to say out. Now,
I can tell you more. Am I allowed to? No.
Well, it's only been an hour or so we can really hit this Top Gun Days of Thunder right now.
Let's do that.
Oh.
And Dazed and Confused, Everybody Wants Some. Those were two
Right.
originals. So let's talk about
Yeah,
those.
I love that.
You know
That
what?
was originally.
It's funny that you say that because in the back of my mind, I kept bouncing back to Dazed and Confused when I was thinking about Empire Records and Mallrats, only because it's the teen sort of angle.
Yeah.
But I was like, but that's just sort of the odd man out. But I always used to watch those three.
I don't really
all
like
the
Dazed and
time.
Confused that much.
Oh.
I just wanted to talk about Everybody Wants Some. Everybody Wants Some is an unbelievable film. I love Everybody Wants Some. Way better than Dazed and Confused.
Rory Cochran's in Empire Records and Dazed and Confused. But anyways, don't forget too, Matt, we got to get those people to comment on their own.
Yes, please,
Right.
everyone, comment below with your favorite, with your top 5 of this
Yes.
subject. Comment with a subject you would like us to give us our top 5 about. Do you agree with ours? Do you disagree? Let us know. Also, like, share, and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. Hit wearproud.ca for all your Mack Flash merch. And I think that's going to do it for us.
Yeah.
Until
Please-
next time.
Until next time, please enjoy the new outro music, also created by AB here.
Oh,
Thanks
you
for
don't want me
watching.
humming? No, you don't like me humming again?